Good morning. This is the office hour for Oregon State University PDC Pro Winter 2024. I'm Susan Cousineau. This is June. It's almost June. It's May 28th, 2024. This is Zoom number 10, and the next lesson due is lesson 10, Concept Plan Local Network Survey on Monday, June 3rd, 2024. So this is going to be the last assignment. So congratulations, you're almost there. Please do make sure to have your assignments submitted on or by Monday, June 3rd, so that I can have them marked and returned for feedback according to OSU's grading schedule. If you submit it late, after the 3rd, I will probably not be able to, I will not record video feedback. So you can submit it by the 3rd for video feedback. Otherwise, I'm going to need to just go through and do the basic grading, and I will leave comments. But I will not be recording video feedback. So otherwise, if I have it by Monday, June 3rd, I can record the video feedback that week. I do have to have all of my markings submitted by the end of that week. You're free to ask questions, submit responses to your feedback as usual if you need to, because your course does run until June 16th. But we do need to honor that deadline for the PACE program and their internal admin. Okay. You see a few people waiting here for us. We're going to let them in. After move Notion off my page, just hold on. Okay. There. Linda and Patricia.
Okay.
Good morning. Oh, hi, Linda. I can see you, or I can see your name up on the participants list. Are you on your phone?
No, I'm yeah, I can see you. I can see me.
Hi, good.
So,
I can see you. I can see me. It's a good morning.
yeah.
I see Patricia was just on her way in too. How are you doing this morning?
Good. I'm getting there.
You've got a lot of detail in yours. You're really covering all your bases.
There's still so much, but I'm on my last slide. It's the budget slide.
Ah, yes, the budget. Are you having any particular issues or just kind of working through it? Because you've done this for landscaping.
Yeah, and I have my contact people. I just was talking to the quarry. My quarry can connect to see how much my path's going to cost.
Oh yeah.
He says, I'm going to give you a volume discount and your contractor discount. So I saved a few $100s for my project if they go with it. But
how long have you run your landscaping company?
Since 2012.
Oh, okay.
So a little bit.
Yeah. Did you do like pretty conventional landscaping up to this point, or were you doing edible landscaping before that? Or?
The design was, and I still do a little bit of, like, I just finished a project on Monday. Yesterday. Yeah, yesterday finished an install that I oversee. I get the contractors, I have the design, I am the person who tells them, make sure things are put in right. And I've shied away from just the normal residential. I was doing consulting with edible landscaping. And now I've told a few people, if you're not interested in going permaculture direction, I don't have time.
Yeah. Life is too short.
Yeah, I know use time. I don't have time to spend on things that doesn't bring me joy and isn't part of my passion. So
good for you. Hi, Pat. Oh, hello. Hello. You're all in here. Okay, good. All right. Do you want me to? I'll start with a little quick overview of the final assignment, you guys. You're here. You made it.
Uh,
Okay, it's pretty straightforward. Oh, I'm gonna do a screen share. I did finally get Zoom worked out. It only took like 6 weeks. I hope they're embarrassed.
That's awful.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Oh, and all the buttons have moved. Okay, here we go. That should be. Okay, so you can see the template and you can hear me, correct?
yes.
Yes.
Okay, all right, it's working so far. All right, so pretty straightforward. It's the local network survey is a lot like the survey back here somewhere with the
Farms and stuff.
yeah with the local farms and nurseries and so on. So this is more like other designers, other farms, illustrators, other contractors you might want to work with, instructors, education companies. So basically everybody else aside from like the food suppliers and the nurseries that you might want to work with. You can go wild, you can duplicate this slide if you find a whole bunch, you can, yeah, yeah, use your creativity, whatever you like to do here. But pretty straightforward. Another SWOT analysis, you've seen these, that's your second to last one, and then your concept plan. This is where it's all going to come together. So use the best base map you've got. If you need to clean up anything, this is a good place to do it. Make sure you've got all of these pieces, the compass rose, all the information, the scales, the legend, all of that nailed down, because this is where it really comes together. And if you're presenting to a client, like this would be the really key piece of the whole project. Like you could basically do away with a lot of the rest of it because that was like learning and building, putting all the pieces together. And this is where you really want to make it clean, really clearly communicated, and bring that together. Okay. So you're basically just bring your existing base map forward, and then like if you need to clean up anything from before. Okay, so here's what you're proposing. This is your, you're going to list out the design elements. So that might be an aquaponics setup, a greenhouse, a couple of swales, a pollinator garden. All of those are going to fall under elements. And this is going to go on top of your existing base map in grayscale. So your grayscale base map is going to be underneath, and then all your proposed stuff is going to be in color. Label and highlight those. This information you can just bring forward from the map on the previous slide. Hopefully that's straightforward. Okay. Here's going to be your proposed zones, pathways, fences, gates, all that kind of structure, like the ways we're going to move people around. Section off different areas, that sort of thing. What's your main goal for the concept plan? Is it going to be food security for our family? It might be bringing community together. It might be creating a safe, like multifamily landscape. I know all of you guys have different contexts. So whatever that is, what's your main goal for this design that you're putting forward? And then what are your specific goals under that? So, we're like this person has said they're going to specifically focus on starting with redirecting water away from the muddy spot and away from the house. So getting that water away from the foundation. So that's a good place to start because it's a potential thing that's going to cause problems down the road. That might be putting in vegetable gardens. It might be putting in pollinator habitat, putting up windbreaks if you've got a strong wind problem, and so on. So this is where you clarify what your goals are. 2 or 3 is great. Don't go too detailed because if you get don't go up to 4 or 5 goals because then you start to just redirect your energy and it goes in all different places. So just pick 2 or 3 that are going to be really clear and easy to move forward on fairly quickly. Okay, again, name your images and map titles. Put your image of the base map in here if there's a particular area of focus into this slot here. Here's space for your legend. Okay, this is going to be your water management plan. So this is going to go back to your water layer and just follow the instructions. Pretty straightforward. Clarify anything that isn't, if you just took this concept plan and gave it to a client, clarify anything that isn't necessarily clear from when you did the water analysis back in lesson 5. And then you're just going to work through this, specifying your water management strategy, how you're going to work with water, what your active and passive water harvesting. So active is going to be like your rainwater tanks. Passive water harvesting is going to be more like swales, improving soil so you get better percolation. So things that you don't have to like actively manage on a regular basis. Any wells and ponds you're going to want to note. You might want to make a comment if like there's a well that needs updating or improving. Same for ponds, that sort of thing. Any irrigation, if that's, and you can make a note if that's going to be drip, overhead, however that's going to work. And then note your overflows for all those water harvesting structures. Any charts where you've made those rainwater calculations are helpful here, so you can drop them in here so that you can see immediately in this slide what water you're working with in order to how much water you're managing essentially. So okay, here's your soil fertility plan, where you're going to be focusing on building organic matter, what your soil management strategy is going to be. So if that's going to be like, for instance, using grazing animals to improve like rooting depth, to improve your forage, that's going to be that can be a soil management strategy. Putting in some swales, reducing erosion, whatever that's going to be. How you're going to be working with the soil that you've got already, and then also how you're going to be creating it. So whether that's a compost strategy, adding, say something like biofertilizers or other amendments to the existing land, using grazing animals, whatever that's going to work out. There is a specific area here for what your composting strategies are, because we're assuming you're going to all have some sort of composting in place. And then what you're going to keep and what you're going to remove. And there's, in all of these, there may well be something that you're going to still need to do some more research, still need to look into, and that's fine. I mean, you've been here for 20 weeks. That's a good chunk of time, but these are ongoing dynamic projects. So there's going to be areas that have come up that you're interested in, that you're going to put more research in. So you can just note that down here, where this is specific to soil, and the same for the water management plan. Okay. Let's jump in if there's any questions, if you want to stop me. Okay. So this is going to be the detailed aspects of the proposed plan. So this is going to be what your plants, your microclimates, kind of those living systems are going to be. And that's going to go into this side. So this gives you a little more space to develop that out and really explain what's going on. And then on the second one, you can do, you can split these up. So one, you do a little bit more structure, one, you do a little bit more vegetation. You can do two separate areas if you want to. Like if you've got one zone that you're going to really focus, you're going to focus on to start, another zone that's going to be sort of a phase 2. You can use these 2 slides in that way. Or you can use one slide to highlight the specific planting strategies and another slide to highlight more of the building, earthworks, so on. Okay, it's going to depend on your site, and feel free to reach out with questions if you want to clarify this along the way. Okay, and now here we get to the budget. This is one that hangs up students fairly regularly, and I think the best advice that I got and I can give is, I mean, when in doubt, it's fine to guesstimate. You can also, I mean, guesstimate on your best, on the best information that you've got, and move forward with that. You can reach out to contractors to ask them questions. No, like Linda, you're familiar with doing that already, so you've kind of got that dialed in. If you're not familiar with reaching out to contractors, you can call around in your area. A lot of like garden and nursery stores, you can bring a design in and talk to them about it and see what advice they're going to give, if they can give you a ballpark estimate for something. Think about whether you're going to be doing the work yourself or if you're going to be hiring someone. If you are going to be hiring someone, look at what at least the minimum wage is, and then add some to that, because this can be heavy labor. If you're going to be doing it yourself, still put that dollar figure down of what you at least should be paying yourself. Even if you're not paying yourself, keep in mind the cost of your labor, your time and energy is still valuable. So keep that in mind in case, for instance, you get injured. Can you guys still hear me okay? I just got a notification that it was unstable. Okay. Hopefully it's not just me, it's unstable. It's just the internet connection. So keep in mind that your time and energy is still valuable. So keep a dollar figure on those hours, regardless of whether it's you or you're hiring someone. You can get a lot of estimates off of, you can look at, Craigslist, you can look at buying things new. Just detail out what this is really going to be an estimate. This is going to change. I've worked with a lot of contractors and designers that will build as much as like 25 to 30% buffer into their budgets, which is, to me, is huge. I mean, it's huge. Linda, what do you put into yours when you do one?
Well, I do bids with the contractors, and I don't know exactly what except that the last ones that they just did, everything that they figured out their cost, like, okay, all the plants, the cost of the plants, and they doubled it for every, like, if the plant was 500, then they charged 1,000, it was like, so I went and got the plants myself and then paid for a day laborer just to save my client some money. But yeah, a lot of times they will double the cost and for the labor.
Yeah, okay. So there's your markup.
Yeah.
Is another thing.
And contractors 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
So yeah, there's definitely, and sometimes I do that where if I'm overseeing an install, I usually do like maybe 10 to 12%. I'm not going to do as much as what some contractors do.
Yeah, okay. But that's what you're going to charge that regardless. That's not like a in case costs increase sort of buffer.
No.
Okay. Yeah, what I had seen was an actual clause where, people will say, the cost of materials or like these costs can differ by as much as 30%. And I'm like, I think you need to work on your estimation skills. I mean, we build in like 15 to 20% into our CDFW grants. But I was quite surprised by 30%. Yeah. So, okay.
Lewis had a comment, I think.
Pardon me?
Yes.
Lewis, yeah.
So I'm looking at the chart. It says year one, and at the bottom it says 5-year total. So are you expecting to see like 5 slides breaking out each individual year?
No. You can. That would be ideal. What most students do is take this and they actually, a lot of them multiply it by 5, which makes no sense because most of these are really, really big installs at the beginning. So I think what their intention is here is that if you can like really detail out the year one and then use a spreadsheet like to make an estimate down to your year 5, or if you want to detail out 5 years to this level, you're welcome to include it, but we don't require it. It's really like the year one that we want to see well detailed.
So on that instruction, that I had to kind of look at this a little bit this morning. Back to the blue, it shows that you can't do it in this chart, right? We don't have access to this chart, so you have to save it. You have to open up the access to the chart, then you have to save it, and then that shows all along. It goes to 5 years, and actually, that's been kind of fun to have it be like, oh yeah, we wouldn't do everything in 1 year. We would do
So thanks for noting that, Linda. So it's basically a duplicate of year one all the way through. So you'd want to edit that, and then it should. So these are automatically calculating.
I think I might only do 3 years just because I'm hoping that they can get it done. I don't have, it's like some of it's big heavy on the first year, but then the next 2 years. So I don't think I'm going to do 5 years. I think I might just break it into 3 years.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, okay.
But that's one of what I tell people when they're trying to decide whether to hire me or not. I'm like, you don't do everything the first year. And if you have a plan, that at the end you're going to have what you want. if you don't have a plan, you might be redoing everything because then you decide that it was in the wrong place or something, you know? So
Yeah,
it helps to have a plan and work through the years.
yeah, and I mean, I've had, I know I'm not alone in that. It's not isolated. I think a lot of times we get called in as designers, as consultants after someone started. I haven't personally encountered the situation very often where someone's like, hey, we're starting from scratch, or even like starting from, say, something like your situation, Linda, where there's like, you know, a field that you can completely convert to a food forest. I tend to get the clients where it's like, well, we started building this thing and then we decided that wasn't going to work, so we started building this other thing, and then when we decided we wanted to put rainwater harvesting on top of it, but then now that thing isn't working. And so it's like you kind of get called into the middle of the mess. But really working, if you can focus on getting clients early on in their process and explaining to them that value of having a plan all the way through, getting it started right, and then being able to look at what's coming down the year, that's super valuable. So lucky you. Good on you. Okay. And then almost not quite last part, permaculture principles, social permaculture. This is where you're going to basically cover how you're building community around your site, around your project, whether you're bringing in students, community members, however that works. You can go through the permaculture principles and find, you don't have to do all of them. Find like, say, 5 or 6 that really apply to your project. So like, use and value the marginal, for instance, like using edges, or using something that wasn't valued or was formerly a waste stream. Using a small space is another way you can apply those principles. So go through them and just pick out the ones that like really speak to you in your project, and then detail a little bit about how you're applying that. So get some images in there. Okay, here's your SWOT analysis. Oh, this is new. Okay, I don't know if you guys have this in your presentation.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you go to the original template, yeah, I'll drop I'll drop it into the chat. They're constantly like updating and improving, I assume improving, the template. So every once in a while I find something that I'm like, oh, I hadn't actually seen that. Like that, the budget, the access to the chart is something that I've seen it before, and I'd forgotten that it was in there, that it was linked so easily. I was thinking it was in the assignment resources. But yeah, they keep adding things to this. So if you want to do your course review here, that's really helpful. They have in the past sent out a Google form, so I'm not sure if they're going to do both this year. But if you want to leave us some comments, you could just cut those slides, copy and paste those slides out of the template into your own presentation. Any questions? And then if you were doing an appendix, it's going to come down here. So, and that's it. And then you're done. Yay! Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, any questions? Thoughts, hints, allegations, things left unsaid, if you remember. Collective soul. Okay, I'm going to stop my share. There we go.
So things that you're looking for, I guess if we just fill in what those slides say, then we're pretty much, I guess we could look at the rubric too. I'd try to do that because I do miss sometimes.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't see it happening here. And I'll be honest, I'm pretty generous with students. If you've made it to the end of the course, I'm like, yep, okay, okay, you filled in that blank, you filled in black. There's a few assignments early on, or in the earlier assignments, there's a couple of things that I don't feel are clear on the template, and I've brought this to their attention, that aren't as clear in the template as they are in the rubric. So sometimes I'm looking in the rubric and I'm like, oh, but I don't see that, for any student. So I don't think it was clear. but I think, yeah, lesson 10 is pretty straightforward. It's pretty much just fill in the blanks, dot your I's, cross your T's, and you're done. But it is a fairly heavy lift. Like it's got a lot of elements to it. So what I've said for this final assignment in the past, and I like to stick to, is if you can have your assignment in by June 3rd, by or on June 3rd, because I'm not in office on the Monday. So essentially end of day, Monday, June 3rd. So there's a little bit of an extension there. Then I can get you video feedback when I'm back in office on Tuesday. If I don't have it by the end of day Monday, I don't do video feedback because it's just a bunch of because I need a boundary on it. It gets really hard when I'm getting a bunch of assignments submitted, like, oh, the last day, or like, you know, in the following week. And PACE needs all my grading and all my feedback submitted by the time your course ends on June 16th. So we really try and get students to get those assignments in on the 3rd, if at all possible. So, but we do want to see you finish the course. So if you're hustling and you're like freaking out and you like just got a couple more slides to do, email me and let me know. But I'd rather just see it come in on the 3rd, and I'll mark it. And if you have to do your last finishing touches, that's fine. I can go back and look if you need me to. But the final deadline is really the only one that's like, oh, please really do stick to this. It's not as loosey-goosey as the rest of the assignment deadlines have been. So
Okay.
Yeah.
So after the 16th, I'd asked once before, we have access to these slides and this templates and all these resources for a couple of years?
Yeah, so you have access to all the resources. So inside and everything that's inside Canva, or Canvas, for 2 years. And then Andrew has told me that at the end of that 2 years, you'll all get a notification that your access is ending. And I'm not sure I think if you just say, oh, you want to continue having access, they just roll you over and you can have continued access. I personally would, bookmark or download any videos that you really want to keep. Just, better safe than sorry. Universities change platforms, or, stuff happens. I mean, this course has been around for over 10 years, so I don't see it go. I don't think anybody foresees it going anywhere. But if there are resources that you really want to keep, mark them either into YouTube, in like a Google Drive folder, something like that. Now, the report template, you will have access to, like anything on Google Drive, as long as you've saved it to your drive, you'll have access. So,
Okay.
and the report template, which some people use as client templates, is shared as anyone with the link. So as long as you have the link to it, you're good. So you'll have access to that. It just won't, after 2 years, it won't necessarily take you back into Canva if there's any assignment resources that are there that you need to access. Okay. But I mean, Andrew and Dow are really generous with their, with their stuff and with their knowledge. I think if at 2 years you decide you still really want access, it's just a matter of asking and figuring out what the admin behind the scenes is. So
Cool.
okay. I always feel like I miss you guys. I want to have like a last part. I hate the final office hour being like 2 weeks before the end of the course. So I'm like, I'm not going to see your faces again. And I've tried to hold like a bonus goodbye video, and I don't know, maybe I'll do it a bonus office hour or anything. But it's been really nice having you guys in the course, and it's nice to see you guys showing up for every office hour. Pat, I can see you've got a question there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to share because I think one of the big issues when you look at community and when you think about setting up your property, you and I talked about it, but the emergency preparedness committee that I am on, and now I'm with recently just with the whoever it's fire chief, and I are now in charge of the neighborhood emergency preparedness for our little community of 5,600 people. So it's got five different areas. So I'll be in charge of those 5 areas if there's some something that comes up, and also setting them all up with their little city, their streets and stuff. But we had a workshop. This is kind of important for anybody with property. I'm sure it's going to be, and I know it's going to be like this in Washington, and I know Nevada's having problems, but we did had a workshop on insurance and told the community, come, or have people come. It turned out that there is so little interest from the insurance companies in California specifically that they didn't even show up. And some of them said, yeah, we don't really have an interest. That's pretty bad. So the message that was sent, though, was if you have homeowners insurance, any kind, if you have property insurance, any kind. In California, we all know there's no such thing as flood insurance anymore right now. If something happens inside your dwellings, and that includes outbuildings, barns, etc., if you've listed them on your insurance, that will be done. But anything that happens from the outside, a rain event, you are not covered. And if you have insurance in California right now, the message is bite the bullet, don't transfer your insurance. If you're a new client, you'll be the first one that gets dumped. So if you go to somebody that's less expensive, it doesn't matter, because it'll be more expensive in another month, 6 months, whatever. Right. If you have a claim, there's a tendency, if you have a claim, they'll dump you. So I have a neighbor that came up to me and said, I thought you said State Farm is the only one in our area, and they just dumped me. And so we were talking, and he goes, well, I'm fairly recent. I moved here 2 years ago. I bought this house. And I said, did you have any claims? And he said, yeah, I had a kitchen fire last year, and now I'm dumped, and I have nowhere to get insurance, and I had to pay for the California insurance, which is, turns out it's half the coverage, twice the expense. So that's not a good option. So I told him, I'm going to actually go see my State Farm guy today and talk to him about the community and ask him if I'm correct. Other people I know, if you had a claim, you'll be canceled, whether it's water, a flood in your kitchen, a fire. So you don't want to, in the old days, people would have a smaller claim. It would make sense to have a big claim, but if it's a small claim, bite the bullet, because you are not going to get insurance. And then people say, well, maybe in about 2 or 3 years, it'll clear up. So I don't know. That's pretty frightening, because unless you're really wealthy where you can have a big loss, that is scary. So I just thought I should tell you that. Unfortunately,
thank you. Thanks for sharing that. Oh, it's one of those areas where it's like, I know we should all know more about it, but it's like, there's so many areas that we all need to know more about, more things. And it's like, yeah, so who do you recommend, like, where do people get more information about that that's reliable, like not from the insurance company, obviously?
Well, right now, in most of Southern California, there are a couple places, but my neighbor goes, well, I've got Liberty, and and I thought they were gonna, and I go, but they've dumped me, and then I got so-and-so, and they dumped me. The only one I know that's currently insuring this whole area of Southern California is State Farm. So if you have somebody else, watch out, because you may be canceled anyway, because nobody wants to be here in Southern California. And Northern California is actually having the same problem too. And so is actually my brother in Spokane. So it's a weird thing, because like I've got those 2 mudslides, and if I hadn't done what you guys recommended, which was put in the rain gutters and downspouts, carry the water away, and put it in barrels, and I would be that person too. My house would have been damaged, for sure, because I used to have some problems. So it was really helpful that I didn't do that. So I'm going to do a workshop with somebody in the community who has set up his whole property with those large barrels that you talked about, those big barrels.
Big tanks.
And he's a former fireman. So he set it up so he's got a sump pump and for his pool. And then he's got these. So anyway, it's kind of like, those are the community things that we could, I don't have much information. The rest of you guys have a lot more, but we could be very helpful for our neighbors and our communities, because I don't know anybody that's doing rainwater harvesting. It's just, they talk about it now that they see a little bit.
Wild, yeah, yeah.
It's scary.
The part that really gets me is that the cities pretend to be talking about it, and they give away those little rain barrels, like the 50-gallon rain barrels. And I'm
Yes.
like, don't waste your like, don't waste your footprint, don't waste your, like, the plastic, like, they're not going to do anything.
Mm.
And, you know, people don't, like, I don't know how many people we've had come onto our property here, and they will literally walk right past our 4,100-gallon tank.
Wow.
And it's a quarter acre. I mean, it's a big suburban lot,
Right,
but it's crammed full of stuff. I mean, it's crammed there. We've got rabbits and chickens and, like, animal enclosures and planters and, like, you know, and it's basically, we've got farm storage on a suburban quarter acre, right? Like, other people have use of their garages. I don't know, like, I don't know what they do with their lives, but, like, it's not, it's like 8 feet wide and 10 feet tall, and people
Right.
walk right past it. So it's
Yeah.
like, it is not going to impinge on your lifestyle to put in sizable, like, substantial, usable water storage on your property, no matter how, almost no matter how small, right? And I mean, if we could have two, we would, for sure. Some years it's like, why don't we have three? Because we're bringing up water from the storm drain. We can get it off the street if we want to. Find that we get to a certain point, we have to just stop pumping, because we're like, we are saturated. Things are going to start slipping if we keep going. And it's like, we have to just start hoping our neighbors, like, upstream somewhere, are going to start catching it, because it's just, otherwise it's just all going down the,
Right.
so.
Yeah, no, I have to thank you. I knew nothing about that before. I mean, I just
Oh.
knew how to use your barrel, but now I'm going, whoa,
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of other opportunities. And so we'll do a workshop, and then there's in our little local paper, the editor's going to have, I'm going to walk him over to this guy, and we'll get pictures that has done it, so that we can, you know, we can be more prepared for droughts, which is going to happen, and for fires and for floods, you know.
All of which,
all of it.
Oh,
And it was disappointing, because the fire chief, the assistant fire chief, was there, and I said, well, at the meeting, I said, well, what about talking about rain harvesting? And he goes, oh, don't do that. There's no use in that. So fortunately, some people I know that are council people go, you're going to go talk to the head fire chief, because he can never give that message to the public again. So there's a lot, you know, I don't know if you guys find it, but there's a lot more ignorance than you would think out there from people that should know better.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
Well, let me know, send the details of that workshop when you put it together, and I'll send it out to my networks. And I mean,
okay.
Yeah, I think we're like about an hour from you, or 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Not too far. So yeah, I'll happily send people in that direction. And, you know, the other graduates that have taken this course, I mean, there's a bunch in LA, North Hollywood, Santa Monica, and then east, like Points East, which is kind of all like San Fernando, Riverside to me. It's like a big gray zone. But yeah, there's quite a few. I get basically all of the Southern California students. So let me know, and I can send it out to them too, because it'd be great to connect some of you as well.
Yeah, and right now I'm redoing the emergency preparedness, because it was 4 pages long, which worked in my neighborhood, but I'm realizing it should just be a page for the other people in the community. Here's your list. You're responsible for this, and this is how you need to connect with us, and then that's it. So I'll send you that once that's redone, because it was too complex.
Sounds good. Well,
Louis, did you have another comment that you were?
Yeah, well, about that whole fire insurance thing, and just insurance in general. So on my 5-acre lot 5 years ago, I was paying $1,000. I added an ADU, and went up to $5,000. And I was like, wow, what's going on? And they were just like, you know, insurances are leaving California, and the premiums are going up. I'm like, you know, 1,000 to 5,000 is pretty extreme.
Very scary.
And so, so when I signed up for the class, you know, I was like, okay, so I'm gonna build a fire suppressant system. And so my neighbor, she just got dropped. She has 10 acres, and she's talking about, she's, you know, signing up a policy for for almost $11,000. And I'm going like, wow, if my policy went, any more than 5, I'm just going to drop the policy, because I figured, after I add a few more tanks, I have my own fire hydrant, I have my own, and I'm going to collect the rainwater. I put the water in tanks. I'm going to add, at first I was on the fence of adding tanks, but what I've noticed is that when there is a massive fire in the area, a lot of times the fire hydrants go dry.
You're right.
And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to have to add more tanks so I could fill them up and just, soak the hillside and keep the brush down. And so that's pretty much the direction I'm going. And I'm hoping to get that installed by the end of the summer. Just to kind of create that, it's more of a fire break, I guess. I'm gonna cut the lower pasture, and then I'm gonna right before the edge of the creek is where I'll have my I guess my sprinkler system at the bottom of the hillside, and then I'll have it at the top as well. And then I'm just go ahead.
Sorry.
And then I'm just, the areas where I have big trees, I was just going to put sprinklers on those trees.
Are you on a private road?
Yes, I am.
Okay, this is curious. Okay, one of the people on my committee works for the electric company. And so she said that a lot of the problem with Arrowhead, but it was snow, okay. But a lot of the problem with Arrowhead a year ago, where they wouldn't go in, and people complained that it turned out there was 20 people that died isolated in the snow. They were probably older and couldn't get out, but they just died in their little cabins and stuff, and they found them much later. I said, how can that be allowed to happen? And she said, because if you're on a private drive, they have to have permission to go up your road. I go, that's still, she goes, I know, but that's the way it is. So you should make friends with whoever, and maybe you have, whoever is the volunteer fire department or the fire department, and let them know, I'm here. You have my permission. I don't have to be here to do anything, flood, fire, whatever. Because I'm thinking of that somehow when I talk to the fire chief, he's got to communicate that. There's a lot of little tiny roads where I live that are isolated and they're private, and they aren't going to go up there if there's a fire or flood. And how did anyone know that? I thought that's what we were all part of a community, right? But that she said they won't go up. So that's scary.
Yeah, that really speaks to that community aspect. Like, even if the public works can't or won't go in, where are the neighbor connections that, like, oh, I know there's like somebody, like a senior living up there, or even staying up there, like what, and like remember like telephone chains? I don't know. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
I should put that down.
Area, and like,
okay.
Yeah, having a telephone chain, because, that, I mean, and it's hard when it's like, it's such an extreme event, right? And you don't know how fast it's going to, when it's going to stop, how fast it's going to turn around, what's really going on. And if you've lost, power or lost connection, then that's another issue. But yeah, preparedness is a big one.
You do have to, this goes through those threats though, like, right, that we did with permaculture, all the threats, the possibilities, you think the extreme, because if it's ever happened, it could happen again. When we lived in Alaska, we were in a little town that had a bridge on either side of the town. And so we knew that with all the earthquakes that happened in Alaska, the city organized block captains, because it was going to take a week or two before we got help. We had to be independently caring for each other. So we would meet as a little neighborhood, we divided up into neighborhoods. And so we were to get to know our neighbors, find out if somebody had special needs that they would, and also those little chart things that you put up in your window that says, I need help, or that I'm okay. It's like, those were all things that we did in Alaska, because we just knew that nobody was going to be there to help us for a while. We had to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
So that's great that you're doing that in your little community. That's really nice. That's a good idea.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I was wondering, how would the fire department know when they go by? You know, if I'm not here, if I can't get up the hill, then the people I'm responsible for, nobody knows what their needs are. But you're right. If I have a little sign that says, like, just says I need help or I am okay, that's brilliant.
Or color. They had a paper that was like a color, like, that could have a code anyway. So
Okay.
green, I'm okay. Red, stop, I need help, or something, it was, yeah.
Well, the other aspect of it is if you can put up a sign that says you're okay, you're not wasting somebody's time and resources going in to check and see if you're okay.
Yeah.
You know, like there's that aspect too. So cool. Wow.
One quick question, and this just for my own, I've got this on this last assignment, but I did do a soil sample, sent it into our extension office that's here in Utah.
Okay.
And it came back with phosphorus was extremely high, very high. And so I did some research, and I was looking to see, asked him, like, do you put, manure? Do you what do you fertilize? Why is it so, like, I think the like 20 or 30 and his is like 76. I mean, it's like just really high. And I hit upon something in this last assignment. And so I kind of focused on that in my fertility, like my soil fertility, that the water that comes out of his water for his whole field is out of the canal. And this one study, and I referenced this study, was that the water that comes that it's because of the geologic, like we have the Utah Lake, and the Utah Lake lots of times will have like algae bloom and different things, phosphorus, but they're saying that it's not from the waste treatment, it's from natural geologic sources. And that's where he gets his waters, out of the river, right?
Right.
So I was thinking it would be really important to test this water and see if there's a filtering system that could be put on this canal before it enters his field. But I didn't know, I mean, I've kind of looked into that. It seems like there is a way to do that, just to test to see the levels and then know how to filter some of that out so that he doesn't keep adding.
Well, the other aspect of that is, did they highlight any particular problems that it could cause? Like, I know, like, consuming a lot of phosphorus, like can have the kidney issues.
Yeah, if I say too much, then it locks up other, and they start failing. He hasn't got to that extreme, but it seems like it's adding, but you can also put plants that, I says, well, maybe rather than, he did a cover crop. I said, maybe rather than putting that cover crop back in, maybe it said to remove some of the plants so that, because the plants pull it up, right? And you don't want to just keep putting it back in. So anyways, that's kind of the focus that I did on that one slide with the soil fertility, was trying to figure out how this phosphorus issue, what it's doing to the land.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, that either like cut and remove cover crops or cut and graze, and then you're moving that phosphorus off by animal motion. And Matt Powers has a really excellent book called Regenerate Soil, and he's got a whole slew of like biofertilizer, like compost recipes in it. Now there's another book that's going to be coming out because I'm editing it right now. It's not mine. It's and I'm just working through the soil chapter, and he's got several pages of biofertilizer recipes in it. I'm not at liberty to share those right now, but I will check the references and see if I can share the references that they came from. But those are all like from the Via Campesina movement, which is all based on like small hold poor, like peasant farmers in Latin America. So they're really simple methods. They're made to be cooked out of really straightforward materials like rice husk and bran and cow manure and like just really simple materials. But often what seems to happen, and this kind of goes back to Elaine Ingham's soil food web stuff, is as you start really building the fertility in the soil, a lot of those like problems and excesses kind of start to take care of themselves because they get locked up into the biology. So you wind up with, in that case, like a community of bacteria that are really good at taking up phosphate because it's in excess. So that's what's going to be, preferred. And so then it takes it out of the food supply for the plant. So then it becomes less of an issue from a crop perspective. So those are some other, do you want me to see if I can find you those recipes?
Yeah, that would be helpful, just because it was confusing. I didn't have we kind of talked about it. And then when I saw that article, I was like, oh my gosh, it's coming. Yeah, it's coming straight from the source.
Yeah, okay. What kind of rock leaches that much phosphate? I guess there's,
I could pull up that. I have reference to that article. It was really interesting because they did a study on like the water and if the waste treatment is adding to they were mostly focusing on Utah Lake. Why is Utah Lake, is it coming from the farms? Is it coming from the water treatment? What's it coming from? And that's where it was a kind of a shell geologic thing that was up in the Utah watershed.
Yeah. Well, phosphorus rich sediments. So
yeah.
Huh,
I mean, that's how they get phosphorus for the fertilizer, right? They
mine it.
Water that's dehydrated, it's like anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some, and Utah has mining for that too. So
right.
I guess it makes sense. But it was an interesting find that I wasn't expecting to come upon. But anyway. So
George.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank you. This has been an amazing course. Pushed me quite a bit in lots of ways, but very excited to have this. And so certification, I got a thing saying that they would send you I requested a paper copy, so I guess that just comes in the mail then.
Yeah, they'll send it out to you. Oh, yeah, never mind. I was going to say, reach out to me if you haven't gotten it in a few months. I did have an issue with a few students that hadn't gotten theirs, but we got that all sorted out. But yeah, I mean, reach out to me if you haven't seen it in a few months, but generally I think they send it out within a few weeks of finishing the course, because like when I get all your grades in, as soon as I know, either when the course closes or when I know like for sure no one else is submitting assignments, then I submit all of your names into PACE admin. They start issuing the certificates and send them out. So it should be fairly quick. Okay, cool. Well, it's been great having you all in the course, and keep in touch. I mean, my email doesn't change. I'm going to be using Canva. I'm not taking students probably until September. I've got a really full workload, so I'm putting off for a little while, but I will. I mean, I've still got my email, my regular Gmail, and then I will also I get notifications when I get emails through my Canvas inbox. So it's nice to hear from students. So
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Right.
Okay, bye.